Yesterday we brought you news of a police hunt for a lion reported to be on the loose in Essex. The search has now been called off with some reports that the lion was no more than a large moggy.
So could big cats really be roaming the British countryside? In a moment we'll talk to two people who can give us an insight. First, our reporter Tim Reid's been looking at past encounters with some rather large feline friends.
Britain's fascination for big cats goes back a long way. Once courted by royalty, lions, tigers and cheetahs like this were later imported by the wealthy to keep as pets. Tales persist that some escaped or were released into the wild. But if feline giants live in the countryside, their presence remains a mystery. Sightings are rare. When a puma-like beast was spotted in West Wales, police were scrambled. It was never found. Officers in County Antrim scoured the countryside for a black panther. After 30 sightings, they later abandoned their search. In Hampshire, they had better luck, tracking down what they thought was a 6-foot tiger. It turned out to be a large cuddly toy. Not every sighting so easily explained. In the mid-90s, an inquiry dismissed photographic evidence of the beast of Bodmin Moor. A week later, though, a leopard's skull turned up. So do cat-like images like those in Essex let our imaginations run wild? Or are there big cats out there waiting to be found? Tim Reid, BBC News.
Well, Mike Pannett is a former police wildlife officer and joins us here in the studio, while Simon King, who presented the BBC's Big Cat Diary, joins us from Frome in Somerset. Very good morning to you. Simon, are there big cats on the prowl in our countryside?
Frankly, I don't think we can be sure. Something like a leopard is such an elusive creature, even where it lives naturally in Africa. We've spent 10, 15 days before now simply looking for a leopard that we know well in the Masai Mara, knowing absolutely that they're watching us, we just can't see them. Having said that, there are so many people in the British Isles, so many people now with cameras. The fact that there's no documentary evidence that's absolutely definitive and certain, well, the question's out there.
Mike, you're a wildlife officer with North Yorkshire Police for, what, 10 years?
Yes, that's right.
You got loads of calls. Did you ever get any cats?
No, unfortunately not, Bill. I think, you know, people generally believe they see things sometimes. And I think the job, certainly for me as a police officer, was to identify if that sighting was actually going to be a big cat. And, you know, I've had so many, you know, dozens and dozens of calls because it's rural North Yorkshire.
What sort of things would people say then?
Well, I've had security guards, big burly 6-foot security guards, terrified to come out of their security hut because they've seen a big cat and they've videoed it. And you know, I've got hold of the tapes and had a look, and it's turned out to be a domestic cat, but a rather large one.
Well, I mean, that's interesting that you say that, because I mean, here in the Daily Mirror is the photograph of the potential lion, and the Mirror think it is probably this domestic cat, Tom, whereas the Daily Mail think that it might be this cat, who's called Teddy Bear, which is a domestic cat as well. Simon, if you are out there and you see something you think is a big cat, you know, is it possible that a normal cat can appear that big and frightening?
Undoubtedly so. In fact, one of the hardest things to judge in the field is scale. You have nothing to judge it by. And so simply going by size is not enough. Really, the only way you can be certain of an animal's identity is by knowing that creature very well from past experience. I'm lucky because I've spent a lot of time watching leopards, lions, cheetahs and other big cats around the world. And each of them has a certain way of moving, a certain weight about their movement, the way they hold their head, the way they hold their tail. And really that's the most, if you like, efficient and reliable way of identifying any species. Simply going by size is not a good way at all to judge.
Simon, why would there ever be any big cats roaming the British countryside anyway? Where would they have come from?
Well, back in the 1970s, I believe a law was passed, the Dangerous Animals Act. Now, before then, in the late 60s, early 70s, it was quite common for people who had the resources and indeed the will to buy a big cat as an exotic pet, something like a lion. You could buy lions and leopards from Harrods and to walk around the high street with them on a chain. Not a good idea. When the Dangerous Animals Act was passed, one had to house those same creatures in the same way as any zoo would, and that's expensive and not very efficient if you want to show off. And so I'm I've no doubt that from time to time, illegally of course, people let those animals go. It's possible that some of those creatures were seen, and they may well have given rise to this continuing story that there are big cats at large in the British Isles. It may be that, and this is a remote chance, it may be that one or two of those cats, leopards for example, met each other and gave birth and persisted. Who knows? The chances of them being a common creature, extremely small. The chances of one or two out there, anyone's guess.
Like when you went out looking for them, I mean, you mentioned the fact that burly security guards were sort of frightened when they thought they'd seen something. Did the hairs ever rise on the back of your neck as you went out searching?
Listen, I think there's nothing better for the media than a big cat story. But I, as a police officer, you have to be absolutely realistic with what you're dealing with. And, you know, I've been called out to things where people have seen large paw prints, and I've sort of been seen wandering around in the 14th green of a golf course with people wondering what on earth is that officer doing. And I was looking for paw prints on that occasion. The snow had covered over, and I used to get sort of the media onto me saying I was trying to cover up the fact that North Yorkshire, for example, had been turned into a wildlife safari park because I was covering it up because we didn't want to put the tourists off. But yes, there's been occasions when people are so genuine with what they've seen. You've got to take it on face value. And when I've been out looking, I remember looking on a riverbank once, and I saw these rather large paw prints. And it does, you know, I'm quite a tough guy and quite fearless, really. But when I'm walking down the riverbank and you see some large paw prints, just the odd little hair on the back of your neck goes up, and you're just thinking, I hope nothing's going to jump out of the woods at me.
The thing is, Simon, some people still think there's a monster in Loch Ness as well.
That's true. We all love a good story of cryptozoology. The difference here, of course, is that we're not talking about a mythical beast. We're talking about creatures that we know exist, big cats, be they leopards, pumas, lions, that's a bit of a stretch. But something like a leopard is such a shy, elusive creature. Take it into somewhere very wild with plenty of forest, it's going to spend a lot of time not being seen, and they're very good at avoiding eyeballs, that's for sure. Right. The chances of a leopard that was released in the 70s still being alive, extremely small.
Yeah. All right, Simon, thanks very much. Simon King.
Mike, thank you very much indeed.